of the opening numbers in every civil rights rally that I had the opportunity to attend. This Little Light of Mine was a children's song written in the 1920s by a pastor and a music teacher. But in the 1950s and 60s, it was made into an anthem, if you will, of the civil rights movement by the Clare Ward singers, of which I had the opportunity to sing with in the 1970s. So, we're going to open with This Little Light of Mine. Is that all right with everybody? Okay.
nature, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. Because of these, the wrath of God is coming. You used to walk in these ways in your life, in the life you once lived. But now you must rid yourself of all such things as these: anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips. Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices. You have put on the new self, which is being renewed in the knowledge and the image of its creator. Here, there is no Greek or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is all and is in all. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you have against one another. Forgive as the Lord has forgiven you. And over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Let's go to the Lord just for a second here. Heavenly Father, we praise you. We come as humble as we know how, and we lift up your righteous and your holy name. We ask that you bless us, O Lord, as a people, and that we all might have the unity of the Spirit that only you can give us. So we just ask, Lord, that you just have your way with us. Let us look to each other and let us love each other the way that you have commanded us to love. And we'll be ever careful to give your name the praise, honor, and the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Welcome, everyone. I am Reverend James Ray. I'm the senior pastor of Second Baptist Church, Golden, Colorado. I'm also a member of the Martin Luther King Planning Committee for the city of Longmont. Working closely with the LMAC, Longmont Multicultural Action Committee. So to the mayor of this fine city, the city of Longmont, Mayor Ryan Bagley, to our speaker of the hour, Mr. Rodney Strong, Esquire, and to all of our parents that are here, to the members of the community, for our young people who have decided to join us here today, for all the children, for all of our civic leaders, for the clergy that happens to be here with us this morning. I simply just stand this morning to simply say welcome and thank you all for being here today as we come here to honor and to celebrate the person and the works of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. I first also want to thank this high school, Silver Creek High School, for its legacy of support that it has given the MLK committee specifically, but also supporting what we're trying to do here, not only in the city of Longmont, the city of Boulder, and all the surrounding cities, as we come together to celebrate and honor the life of Dr. Martin Luther King. So we certainly want to thank our dear brother, Eric Finistad, the principal of this fine institution, and all of his staff, the students, the faculty, and all of those who actually have worked with us in the past. Now, of course, this particular year, it's my understanding that we actually did a two-day event. The first event, the first day of our MLK celebration here in the city of Longmont, actually started on Friday evening. I had the privilege of being here, and I tell you, for those of you that were here, you know that we were blessed that evening. It was a wonderful evening. And to see all the young people, particularly the students, come together, the choir and the band here at Silver Creek High School, it was just a wonderful thing to experience. So now we actually have day 2 of this particular celebration. So again, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to, I don't know about you, but whenever I see snow, it kind of changes my attitude about things. And sometimes the weather has a tendency to set the mood. But we know, and I know, that the reason why you were here is because you know that Dr. Martin Luther King did a wonderful thing, and God did a wonderful thing through that person of Dr. Martin Luther King. So we're here to honor him, and to celebrate him, and to pay tribute to him. educate some, but also to inform and to let everyone know that Dr. King's legacy is worthy to be perpetuated. So I thank each of you for being here on this particular day. It is my hope that as we go through this beautiful program, that each of us individually will take something away from this, even if it's just something that just allows you to be inspired to serve, you know, in an organization, or to get involved in some way. Perhaps it's just a change of a presupposition or assumption that you might have about Dr. Martin Luther King and the work that he has done. Perhaps you might be inspired to love a little deeper, or to get involved in a more meaningful way in community service or that sort of thing. So, in my understanding, we also have packets that we're going to be handing out here prior to you leaving, which is going to include a lot of the work that some organizations are doing here, not only in the Longmont area, but in adjacent areas as well. So again, thank you so much for being here this particular evening or this morning, and we just welcome you and welcome you and welcome you, and we hope that you will enjoy what you experience here today. Again, I say welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm principal here at Silver Creek High School, and I'd like to welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, our friends, thank you for coming to celebrate and honor the life and the work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, share this occasion with you. Over the course of the last 7 years, Silver Creek has partnered with our broader community to celebrate this momentous occasion. But more importantly, as a school, we've charted an enduring course in our own work to represent that of Dr. King's. I'd like to thank our students here this morning assisting us with this. I'd like to thank our St. Vrain Valley School officials for your continued support of our community collaborations. Many thanks to our civic and our political leaders who are here today to support. In particular, I'd like to thank Mayor Brian Bagley, Deb Gardner, County Commissioner, Joan Peck of Longmont City Council, Holly Christensen, the Mayor Pro Tem of Longmont City Council, and many, many thanks to our Silver Creek Leadership Academy, which is a 4-year program that we sponsor here, the volunteers, and the many volunteers from the Longmont Multicultural Action Committee that continue to make this a success, as well as several other events that we collaborate upon. Because of our students, and because of the broader community, we are an inclusive community that is committed to leadership, committed to excellence in academics, the arts, and athletics. And the idea of inclusivity cannot be taken for granted. Not today, not tomorrow. And 7 years ago, when we charted this course to create this mission statement and build our school a bit better, brick by brick, we all understood that ideas such as inclusivity, ideas such as excellence and leadership can be very fleeting, but they're here to serve as guiding principles in our work, allowing us to continue in our feats and in our challenges. Our school has so many examples of embodying the legacy of Dr. King. And to begin with, our students contribute well over 10,000 hours of community service within our community. Think about that the next time someone talks about the lackluster work ethic that millennials have. Our kids, every year, 10,000 hours helping nonprofits, contributing their time to just causes and empowerment and improvement for other people's lives. Chronicled by the Longmont Times Call, which I'd like to thank for being in attendance today to cover our event. Our Peace and Service for Africa organization, which has been led by students and under the direction of Ms. Justel Branser, has improved countless lives in rural Africa by sponsoring 2 African students, one who's gone to medical school, the other who's gone to nursing school. These students have been able to give back to their own communities, reaching out to communities around the world and improving the healthcare options and awareness of health in communities is but one example of the many that our Silver Creek Leadership Academy is having upon our own community and those abroad. Through our Leadership Academy, many students have contributed their time, energy, and organized assist others in doing so. For the past 2 years, our capstone students in the 12th grade year have become the first students in Longmont to serve as teachers at Intercambio, helping others from around the world become proficient in acquiring the English language. And this program has far-reaching effects, most importantly, demonstrating to many students in St. Vrain that their parents are committed not only to their children's education, but to their own as well. Another student has centered upon his focus in creating awareness about international human trafficking. He serves on state-level boards, he's written accessible curriculum for our youth, and collaborated with other nonprofit organizations throughout the state of Colorado as he is championing human and civil rights for every single individual the world over. When faced with a challenging situation, maybe it best be asked some of these questions. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? This lesson in altruism brought to us by Rotary International is now being replicated at schools because of one of our capstone students, and he's able to provide younger kids with an opportunity and context for establishing ethics and approaching challenges with full capacity and understanding. Another student, after having had a terrific experience in working with the Longmont Sister Cities program in Chino, Mexico, has begun establishing a scholarship fund for other students to take part in this exchange and this experience and to spread goodwill between our communities of Longmont, Chino, and many others, to provide for service and to provide for international accord for students and families here and also within Chino. Several of our SCLA students have contributed their time to improving the lives of students with exceptional needs. Silver Creek serves as a vanguard in establishing unified sports programming, working with athletes with exceptional needs and those without, serving as volunteers and as in-game mentors. The joy, the excitement to all of those that are involved has allowed this program to expand beyond the Front Range. And now, many schools within St. Vrain have established their own unified programs. Beyond that, we have kids that are working to provide for the Day of Champions, where athletes with exceptional needs can have an athletic experience, let alone volunteering at the Colorado Therapeutic Riding Center, providing empowerment to these exceptional students through equine therapy. Hunger, ladies and gentlemen, is something that no child should have to endure. This year, an SCLA student has taken the small but very large step of establishing a little pantry at Burlington Elementary. Similar to the idea of a little library, a little pantry provides a place for kids to load up before a break or a holiday weekend with food that may be scarce otherwise. Today, females are underrepresented in our STEM fields of science, technology, engineering, and math. And to combat this, not only does Silver Creek offer a full array of computer science classes, which rivals any 5A high school in the state of Colorado, let alone the nation, but for the past 4 years, an SCLA student has coordinated GEMS Day, or Girls in Engineering, Math, and Science Day. Beyond the scope of our Leadership Academy, our students and teachers have helped to establish and provide for the local Doing Democracy Day, allowing for teens to partner with city officials to solve local problems. Our Unidos Club pushes for Hispanic student leadership and providing student voice. Our Sources of Strength initiative promotes student, social, emotional health and awareness. Our athletic teams brighten days at Children's Hospital through their volunteerism. Our world languages have grown to support not only the language, but the culture of French, Spanish, and Mandarin. Our kids and our school partners with organizations that make a difference, such as A Woman Works, Rotary International, Our Center, Asian Pacific Alliance of Longmont, Longmont Multicultural Action Committee, the Longmont Chamber of Commerce, Leadership St. Vrain, Intercambio, Special Olympics, Wounded Warriors, Team Rubicon, Defenders of Wildlife, the Animal Sanctuary, Mountain States Children's Home, Live Well Longmont, Longmont Safe Shelter, Meals on Wheels, Make-A-Wish Foundation, Health and Education for Nepal, and many, many more. My point is not to brag about our kids' work. My point is to highlight that Dr. King would be proud of the work that we engage in within and throughout our community of Silver Creek, Greater Longmont, the United States, and the world. And while, ladies and gentlemen, friends, we lay in the shadow of the great mountaintops that are just to the west of us, it's there before us, as is that great mountaintop indeed. It can be seen, and together we will all summit it. Once again, I'd like to thank you for all of your contributions. Thank you for being here this morning. And it's my pleasure at this time to introduce your mayor of Longmont, Mr. Brian Bagley.
I've been asked to read the proclamation that I and City Council declared last week. But before I do so, I just been struck. This is the 7th time I've had the opportunity to participate in this. And I'm always struck that, a few of us in the community, especially men of power who happen to have white skin, we can be a little slow. And oftentimes we forget that there are people who are continuing in their struggle for equality, fairness. And I certainly have been guilty of not seeing that. But I also think it's important that this year, this celebration is probably more important than the others, given the national climate. And just unequivocally, I think that all people, especially those of us who hold elected office, need to speak vocally and vehemently and forcefully that it's not okay to discriminate based on nationality, the color of your skin, your sexual orientation, or your religion, or your disability. And so I will continue to remind those around me and our community members that that is indeed the type of community we want to be. And with that, let me go ahead and reread the proclamation designating the week of January 15th through January 19th, 2018 as All Cultures, One Voice, honoring Dr. Martin Luther King through community involvement in Longmont, Colorado. Whereas January 15th, 2018 marks the Dr. Martin Luther King holiday on which we honor Dr. King's unwavering fight for the absence of oppression and the presence of opportunity for all, who sacrificed to sow the seeds for a movement of peace, equality, and justice. And whereas across the nation, in the state, and in the city of Longmont, honoring Dr. King has become a day of service to our communities. Events held in Longmont that began on January 12th are made possible by many dedicated volunteers from diverse backgrounds, coming together to share the importance of the civil rights movement and the need to take action. And whereas this will be a week of celebration, tribute, education, service, and solidarity, an opportunity for the community to come together to commemorate the life, work, and legacy of Dr. King, and to promote a caring and inclusive community that is proud to embrace, respect, and celebrate each other. And whereas we are also honoring Mrs. Glenda S. Robinson and Mrs. Madeline S. Woodley for their passion, compassion, and commitment in sharing the importance of the civil rights movement, Dr. King's legacy, and keeping the dream alive for future generations in Longmont. Now, therefore, I, Brian J. Bagley, Mayor, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the City Council of the City of Longmont, do hereby proclaim this week of January 15, 2018 as honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Week in Longmont, and invite all to attend the events honoring Dr. King. Thank you for your participation.
Certainly want to thank Mayor Bagley for those encouraging words and for reading the proclamation for us today as it relates to Dr. Martin Luther King and this particular celebration that we're experiencing here in 2018. Truly, as our heritage community choir makes its way to the stage, it's a good time for us now to, again, just sort of reflect on what it means to be here today. And I'm just reminded of that statement that Dr. Martin Luther King made that challenges us all and that is that life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you willing to do for others? And so as we move along in this particular program, in that spirit, now I want to introduce to you our Heritage Community Choir, who is going to sing a song of unity. And then afterwards, we're going to have, as we look into solidarity and service, Ms. Carmen Ramirez and Mr. Sam Shea Safi, who are both, who is the chair of the Longmont Multicultural Action Committee. They'll come up and share a few words with us. Then after that, and just again in the spirit of diversity, we are going to have a dance from our Baile de Mitera dance group from the City of Longmont Senior Center. And they will celebrate here with us today through a tribute through dance. So now join me in welcoming our Heritage Community Choir as they present to us a song of unity. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How are we feeling? Good. Warm? So, first I want to introduce some folks that are with me. So, Sam Safey, who is the chair of the Longmont Multicultural Action Committee. Rita Liu, who was a former chair of the Longmont Multicultural Action Committee, but also who heads up the Asian Pacific Association of Longmont. And next month, she'll be inviting you to Chinese New Year. So I'm going to start off. My name is Carmen Ramirez, and I've had the privilege of having participated in this event for about 15 years and have worked with people that care about building an inclusive community. And by inclusive, I mean all races, ethnicities, sexual orientation, abilities, ages. We mean all. But I want to ask a question. Has anybody ever heard a term called beloved community? Yes. So I thought that was really important, because what is important is that the history of the past and the healing of the injustices connect us to today. So Dr. King used the term beloved community. He thought it was a realistic, achievable goal that could be attained by a critical mass of people, which is why we're here today. In which all people can share in the wealth of the earth. Poverty, hunger, and homelessness will not be tolerated because international standards of human decency will not allow it. Racism and all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice will be replaced by an all-inclusive spirit of sisterhood and brotherhood. So you need to know that since 2003, many people from our Longmont community have contributed to the concept of a beloved community through their efforts in the Longmont Multicultural Action Committee. So if you don't know it, the vision of the Longmont Multicultural Action Committee is the people of Longmont working together to be a caring and inclusive community, proud to embrace, respect, and celebrate each other. The Longmont Multicultural Action Committee is a city council initiated effort that inspires the Longmont community to take individual and collective action to promote cultural understanding, inclusion, and involvement in creative community where everyone belongs. This work is accomplished by focusing on cultural events, community learning, and community leadership. Why is this work important? For Longmont, it cultivates stronger connections and relationships among community members from different cultures and inclusive of all communities. It promotes civic engagement. It creates opportunity for all residents to learn about and celebrate different cultures, different segments of our communities that are all part of our community. I want to say a special thank you to Glenda Robinson, Madeline Woodley-Strong, Sam Safey, Rita Liu for all of their contributions. These individuals have helped to continue to support the vision of the Longmont Multicultural Action. More importantly, they all have inspired that next generation of passing the torch so they can continue this work. And I want to give a shout out to Silver Creek, especially the leadership students and the staff for helping us to pass the torch on to that next generation. Please join us in building community. The people of Longmont working together to be a caring and inclusive community, proud to embrace, respect, and celebrate each other. In closing, I want to talk about two folks that knew each other, Dr. King and Cesar Chavez. Those two knew each other, worked together, and helped each other. So here's a quote from Cesar Chavez. I had seen something about Dr. King sending Cesar Chavez a telegram when they were in the middle of working in the fields. But here's a quote that I think is appropriate from Cesar Chavez. We cannot seek achievement for ourselves and forget about progress and prosperity for our community. Our ambitions must be broad enough to include the aspirations and needs of others for their sake and for our own sake. Thank you. I'm going to let Sam and Rita say a quick word.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning at Longmont Multicultural Committee. We work, there are about 24 of us, 24 of us, all volunteer work, of course, and have tried, as it was explained earlier, that we try to create events which will support multiculturalism. My wife and I have been now in this great city for the last 15 years, and I have been with the Multicultural Committee with 14 years, and we need more people. We need people like yourselves. I want to thank the mayor and the city of Longmont for supporting our efforts, but we need volunteers. So may I take the opportunity to invite you. We meet only once a month, but then there are committees which also meet once a month. So it is not a hard work. Please come and join us. And we can make Longmont a better place for all of us to live. Thank you.
Representing the Longmont Multicultural Action Committee, I want to thank you for helping us to continue implementing our mission and vision. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Our group is Bailes de Michiera. We are from the Longmont Senior Center, and we are sponsored by the Friends of the Longmont Senior Center. Thank you for inviting us. We consider it an honor. Dr. King's accomplishments, his bravery, his legacy inspires each of us individually and as a group to be more, to carry on his work, and to improve our world for our generation and for generations to come. Thank you.
Las puedo, o las saco de las greñas, bienvenido, papi, don Navido.
hand for our ballet Tierra dancers. I don't know about you, but as I was sitting here watching, I was just saying to myself, I simply must get one of those dresses. Now, I'm not going to wear it. So as our Heritage Community Choir makes its way to the stage and gets prepared, I just want to, again, just remind us what we have forthcoming here. So we're going to have a song of tribute. And by the way, the Martin Luther King Committee of the Longmont Multicultural Action Committee actually operates under several pillars. One is celebration, the other is tribute, then there's education, and then solidarity and service. And so we try to put together a program where each of those pillars is represented. So in light of that, we'll have a song of tribute. And then afterwards, we're going to have an introduction of our keynote speaker. And then we'll have, following our keynote speaker, we're going to have a rendering of the I Have a Dream speech expert. And that will be provided to us by our Mr. Richard Gaither. So now, I turn you back into the hands of our this wonderful choir, our Heritage Community Choir. Thank you.
right? We're grateful for these days that we can celebrate. Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. It's my esteemed honor to stand before you to share a bit of my story as a civil rights activist in the late 1960s as I marched on the Freedom Trail. April 4th, 2018 marks 50 years since these life-changing events culminated with the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King in my hometown of Memphis, Tennessee. And what's so incredible to me is that I was there. This series of events turned out to be Dr. King's last work, the march that culminated, the March 28th march, that culminated in him returning to Memphis the following week and being assassinated. He came to Memphis on behalf of the sanitation workers in March, for that sanitation march, where two sanitation workers, Ethel Cole and Robert Walker, were crushed to death in the back of the garbage truck. I mention their names because so many people gave their lives for the cost and price of freedom, and many remain nameless. Because these men were not allowed to take breaks, the garbage workers, that is, or have lunch periods, they made $1.80 per hour. It was extremely cold that spring. I remember it because I was a junior living in Minders Hall at Memphis State University. So they climbed into the back of the truck, and just for a minute, they were trying to get warm. It was raining, freezing cold, kind of like today, sleety, wet, not snow, just sleety. But somehow the switch was tripped, and they died a slow and painful death. In fact, many lives were lost for the cause of freedom. People died. That's what I want us to know. People died for the basic human rights and for the right to vote and just the right to be free and live among each other. The civil rights movement literally changed the lives of people for all Americans. Our forefathers had a strong faith in God and believed that education was essential in changing the plight of our existence. And so today we share that history in real time. I'm excited and delighted to introduce our guest speaker, who hails from our hometown of Memphis, Tennessee. He currently lives in Atlanta with his wife and business partner, Del Marie, who is also an attorney. Rodney K. Strong is the chairman of Griffin & Strong, PC, a law and public policy consulting firm. He's currently the project principal for public policy consulting engagements with several state and local governmental entities. A member of the State Bar of Georgia, he represents a range of public entity and corporate clients specializing in public, contract, and community development and real estate law. In addition to his law practice, he also serves as the general counsel for the Fulton County City of Atlanta Land Bank Authority. He's currently the supplier diversity consultant for the Mercedes-Benz Stadium that's currently being constructed in Atlanta. He's widely considered one of the foremost national experts in the area of procurement disparity research and supplier diversity program development. His experience in these areas began in 1985 when then Mayor Andrew Young appointed him Director of Contract Compliance for the City of Atlanta, Georgia, a position he held until 1992. He's a graduate of the University of Memphis, Cecil C. Humphreys School of Law, where he was a Herbert Perf President presidential law scholar. He received his undergraduate degree in political science from Morehouse College, so he's a Morehouse man. Among his many accomplishments, most recently, Mr. Strong, I think just a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, was inducted into the Atlanta Business Hall of Fame by former mayor and ambassador to the United Nations, Andrew Young. Ladies and gentlemen, stand on your feet and help me give attorney Rodney Keith Strong a warm Longmont, Colorado, mile high, freezing cold welcome.
Good morning. I am really excited to be here. I want to first acknowledge and thank Mayor Brian Bagley for being here for his proclamation. I want to also acknowledge any other elected officials that are in the House. I want to thank our clergy who've done such a fine job this morning, and I want to say a particular thanks to Principal Eric Finstead and for the wonderful work that they're doing here. And I just want to tell you that my topic this morning is not one that I personally composed, and in fact is one that I borrowed from Dr. King. And it is the title of his last book. Dr. King wrote and published 4 books during his lifetime. And his final work was, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? And that's the question we ask today. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? You know, Dr. King is the only American citizen honored with a national holiday. Dr. King is the only private American citizen with a memorial on the National Mall. So I ask you a question. Why only Dr. King? Think about that. Why Dr. King? And I believe that the answer lies in the most important question we ask ourselves as citizens of this nation. What does it mean to be an American? Who is an American? Who qualifies to be an American? Are we one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all? Or are we a nation of different races and ethnicities and nationalities dominated by people of European descent? Groups of people arranged in castes with those of English ancestry on top and those of African ancestry consigned to the bottom. Do we have equal protection of the law, or are we a nation with entire groups of people consigned to second-class citizenship? That's the essential question we have to ask ourselves as a nation. Now, Dr. King is honored today because he and the movement he led set America on a new path. Dr. King and the movement he led called on this nation to live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. nation. In fact, we are far from it. But because of the life of Dr. King and the movement he led, we are a more perfect union. So it's all good and well to honor Dr. King, but what we have to remember is that what Dr. King did, and the reason he deserves to be honored, is because we have taken this nation from what it was founded as and turned it into what it has become, and that we have a responsibility to keep pushing this nation in that direction. No other nation on the face of the earth was founded based on a creed of freedom, justice, and equality. No other nation was founded on an idea as opposed to an ethnicity. No nation declares, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free." The promise of America as a shining beacon on a hill is implied in its founding documents. But as a nation, we have never lived up to our ideals. The English colonies were established by expropriating the land of Native Americans. Africans were traded as slaves and brought to these shores with what the Supreme Court declared to be no rights a white man was bound to respect. At the very heart of the founding of our republic was the question of identity. Who qualifies to be an American? The United States Constitution embodied the contradictions between the ideals of the founding of our republic and the African slave labor system at the heart of its economy in the 3/5 clause of the Constitution. And so this contradiction resulted 407 years later in the bloodiest war in the history of the nation and one of the bloodiest wars in the history of the world. Because no nation can live, as Abraham Lincoln declared, half slave and half free. We were a house divided, which could not stand. Over 189,000 African Americans fought in that war. Most started the war as slaves, but they ended with the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments as free men. They emerged from slavery as free men moving as citizens, guaranteed with all the rights based on those Civil War amendments of any American. Full citizenship, the right to vote, the right to own property, the right to pursue happiness. But I want to say that neither this war, this Civil War we fought, nor the constitutional amendments which emerged from it, or are abstractions to me and my family. I was invited here by my cousins, Madeline Strong Woodley and Glenda Strong Robinson, who've been active in organizing this event for many years. And our grandfather, Murtis Sylvester Strong, was born in 1860. He started that great war as an enslaved African in America. He emerged from that war after the passage of the 14th Amendment as a citizen of the United States of America. He started life privileged educator, and I am the proud grandson of an ex-slave. The story didn't end there, and so therefore we can't stop there. After the Civil War, African Americans and the nation as a whole made tremendous progress during a period called Reconstruction. Various activities were engaged in to bring the formerly enslaved fully into citizenship in the nation. But after the Tilden Hayes Compromise and the federal troops were withdrawn from the South, we ended up with a period which is often referred to as the redemption period, the former Confederates seeking to redeem their status. And ultimately, the Supreme Court ratified much of these illegal, unconstitutional schemes in the infamous Plessy versus Ferguson decision, leading many African Americans back into a condition not much different from slavery, based on convict labor, segregation, and invidious racial discrimination. Dr. King, my cousins and I were all born under that political situation. Our grandmother, who I grew up in the house with, was born in 1874 during the Reconstruction period. She lived throughout the Redemption period, and she also lived throughout the Jim Crow period. And during this period of Jim Crow, white supremacy had become, once again, the law of the land. And all of the struggles that had gone on before seemed to have fallen by the wayside. And it seemed that this nation had gone back on its founding creed. And so Dr. King is not just a historical figure for us, because by being born during the period of Jim Crow, at the dawn of what's now called the classic civil rights movement, we had a chance to observe Dr. King. And we had a chance to talk to our grandmother and hear her give her opinion about what was going on. Dr. King wasn't a historic figure to those of my age. We had a chance to see him on Face the Nation and meet the press and to observe his demonstrations and to participate where we could and to attend a church service or to read a book that he had just written. And we remember what he was trying to change. You know, in our hometown of Memphis, we remember when we had to sit on the back of the bus, when we had to watch movies from the balcony of the movie theaters downtown, when we had to use separate restrooms, separate water fountains, when we couldn't walk in the front door of a McDonald's and buy a hamburger. We saw all that change because of the movement that Dr. King led. We saw the white and colored signs come down in Memphis in 1964 after the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. We saw African Americans obtain the right to vote after fighting on the Edmund Pettus Bridge and the passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. We observed opportunities to buy new housing outside of a confined ghetto with the passage of the 1968 Fair Housing Law, less than 3 days after Dr. King was assassinated in 1968. So it's not an abstraction to us that this nation can go from big ideals, a full civil war, hundreds of thousands of deaths, and then back into a dark period. We don't granted because we understand that this nation is one that we make every day by our own actions. You know, I was very close to our grandmother, and she was an avid reader, a retired school teacher, and by the time I came along, I was born, she was 80. She passed away, it was a month short of her 96th birthday and a month short of my 16th birthday. And as I mentioned earlier, she lived through Reconstruction, through redemption, through Jim Crow, and completely through the modern classic civil rights movement. And through all of this, we had a chance to talk to her very frequently. Dr. King came to Memphis in 1968 to lead the March Against Fear from Memphis to Jackson, Mississippi, and we had a chance to discuss it. And in 1968, Dr. King was assassinated in our hometown. And I talked to my grandmother about many of these events. She was constantly reading the news, constantly discussing what was going on and how she saw it. But you know, not too long after that, when his last book came out, after he was assassinated, my grandmother bought the book and she was reading that book. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community. She was born when Ulysses S. Grant was president of the United States. And by this time, Richard Nixon was president. And I went by to visit my grandmother, and we talked about that book. A week later, my grandmother passed away. And I asked my aunt if I could have a copy of that book. She allowed me to have it. I still have it. I keep it on my desk all the time. Because in that book, my grandmother would start out and she'd read maybe a chapter and a half, and that would be a little X. And then she got to a point, as you got further in the book, she'd read maybe 3 or 4 pages, and there was an X. And then you got toward the end of the book, and she would read a paragraph, and there was an X. She was getting weaker and weaker, but her last activities was to think about how do we move forward as a nation. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community. Dr. King talked in that book about building a beloved community where we work together as one nation, not based on our ethnicity, not based on our skin color, not based on where we come from, not based on who our mother was or who our father is, but based on being Americans, one nation, under God. Abraham Lincoln was right when he noted that Jesus Christ had given a profound statement when he said that a house divided against itself cannot stand. Dr. King often quoted James Russell Lowell, who said, "Truth crushed to earth will rise again." Today, we face an existential threat as a nation, not from the North Koreans, not from the Iranians, but rather from the hoary ideas of white supremacy that drip from the lips of those in high places. Anchor babies. Those who want to talk about anchor babies, chain migration, find people on both sides. The challenge we face today is greater than one we have faced in many years. Will we choose to live together as brothers, or perish together as fools. This is the meaning of Dr. King. That is why we honor him. In his final book, Dr. King advocated for America to become the beloved community, where we look out for each other. Will we choose to turn toward each other or on each other? Will we be a community or will we have chaos? Thank you very much.
What a message. Leaving us with a very profound question. Where do we go from here? Do we choose a trajectory of community or a trajectory of chaos? That is the question. Will we choose to essentially love one another? Seek what is best for the next person. And at the heart of Dr. King's message and messages was just this grand narrative called love. Love. A word that has become so foreign to many, but yet it's so simple. Just treat others the way you want to be treated. That is the question. Where do we go from here? Community or chaos? Thank you. Brother Rodney, for that wonderful reminder that the choice is ours. That's where the power is at. It's our choice. So, with that in mind, I think and thank Brother Strong again for that wonderful reminder. Bringing these 2 days together with that one question, I think was very, very meaningful for us. And so now, as it has been our tradition, at least as long as I've been working with this particular committee, to always end this particular day with an excerpt from the speech of Dr. Martin Luther King, that famous I Have a Dream speech. And so now I'm going to invite Brother Richard Gaither to come to the stage to share with us this excerpt, and then afterwards we will have a closing song of solidarity, We Shall Overcome. Please join me in welcoming Richard Gaither.
I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state that is sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream today. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor, whose lips are dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day, right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls, as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley should be exalted. Every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing all the time that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with a new meaning, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee I sing, land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside let freedom ring." And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that. Let freedom ring from the Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill of Mississippi, from every place, every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able then to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing, in the words of the old Negro spiritual, "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last."
Thank you, Richard Gaither, for that wonderful reading of that famous speech by Dr. Martin Luther King, the "I Have a Dream" speech. And so as our Heritage Community Choir is coming up on stage, this again is kind of taking us back to a tradition. We traditionally end our MLK program with the singing of We Shall Overcome. We Shall Overcome was the unofficial song of the civil rights movement. And when it was sung with those who were participating, grasping hands with right hand over left. So what we're going to ask you to do today is to please stand with us right now and to join together as in a spirit of solidarity. And we want to share with one another as we sing this wonderful song, We Shall Overcome. While we are getting ourselves together, I want to also just take this time to say some special thank yous again to Principal Eric Finnestead and this Silver Creek High School, to our sponsors, to the Silver Creek Learning Academy, to all of the students here, to Lexmark, who has a long tradition of supporting this particular event. We certainly just want to say thank you. We acknowledge again all of our community leaders and our elected officials, and above all, we just thank you. Thank you for being here today, on this particular day, for this particular reason, and for this particular cause. Again, we want to thank our dear brother, Rodney K. Strong, for that wonderful message and reminder that we have the power right now to make a choice in terms of whether or not we want to move forward in chaos or community. Okay? So with that being said, just thank you again. So I'm going to acknowledge you.
Everybody got right over left? Right to the right. We shall overcome.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome.
myself.